right, let's get through some of these. Okay, so verbal cues, what should you say? So in a meeting or in a job interview or maybe in your elevator pitch. Create goodwill. Agree, compliments, say things that are nice. It's not a lot of small talk, but just when you're talking, be agreeable, right? Exemplify desired qualities, maybe selflessness, I want to help others, I don't want to just do it for myself. Commitment, when I start something, I finish it, you know, kind of thing. So desired qualities. Self-promote when necessary, skills for a job interview or maybe for a new leadership role. You want to be able to express your ability. Be interesting. This I haven't talked about too much, but you want to be unique. There are a lot of people in China. This is the most populated country in the world, right? And can you imagine if you were competing with 200 other Chinese applicants for a single internship position, and they would see one after another, the same ideas, the same maybe experiences, the same education, and they need to choose somebody that they're going to remember, that's going to stand out. So it's okay to share something that's a little bit interesting. Maybe a sport you're involved in and how that has helped you to be more competitive. Or maybe, I don't know, something that you enjoy doing, but something a little bit more interesting and that makes you unique. Can you all think of something that makes you unique? I bet if I had time to talk to each one of you, each one of you would be a completely unique individual, even though you're all from the same country, in my class, kind of similar surroundings, but each one of you has something very unique about you. So what is that? Just a few negatives to avoid. Intimidation tactics. Don't threaten or challenge somebody when you're talking to them too directly, and avoid presenting yourself as weak. Don't show that you're confused, you know, and need more help. Excuses for not getting work done. We always say, yeah, my dog ate my homework, you know. he didn't, but that's just an excuse, right? You know, somebody didn't give me the time. So these are just some things to think about what you say. We talked about your nonverbal, now it's the words, and the next thing is how you say it, okay? So speaking with a natural confidence. Even though some of you were nervous when you got up here to speak today, I thought that you sounded very confident, that it was natural. And that it takes a little while to develop that. I'm always nervous at the beginning, but once I see your faces and I get to know you just a tiny bit, I relax and I feel like I can talk to you like a friend, okay? And so this is what you want to do in most of your presentations in an interview, is don't appear to have memorized everything and like it's me against you, you know, but it's like it's an interaction. Make it a friendly conversation. Use appropriate volume for the setting. Depending on how close you are and how many people are in the room, just make sure that your volume is appropriate. I think what I saw today is that you don't have a problem with being too loud. You might have a problem with being too soft, right? Soft-spoken, so it's hard to understand you. So don't make somebody ask you to speak louder, right? Just speak an appropriate volume so that they enunciate. You've all been learning English for quite a while, but I'm sure that there are some parts, some words and some phrases that are hard to enunciate. I know I just am learning Chinese a little bit, and it's hard for me to say some sounds in English, so I have to, or in Chinese, so I have to work at enunciating every syllable, every sound, so that you understand me, okay? And then this next one, I don't have an example, but I'm just going to, this is very important. Pause for comprehensibility and effect. The English sentence structure is as such as it's in small thought groups, right? And if we pause at the appropriate place in the sentence, the English brain can comprehend what you're saying. If you don't, we're very confused. Okay, so I learned this very well when I was teaching a group of graduate MIS students, all from India. Have you ever talked to somebody from India? They know English well, because English is their national language in education, but you can't understand them. And most people will tell them, slow down. Well, when I was assigned to teach them, I studied them very closely and I figured out what they needed. It wasn't to speak slower, it was to pause, because they never paused. And I didn't know where the sentence started and where it stopped, right? So in English sentence structures, we might say, there are prepositional phrases. We might say, in the morning, I went to the bank, I cashed my check, and went shopping, right? So there are 4 thought groups. Now, if I didn't pause in the appropriate places, I would say, in the morning I went to the bank too. You see how it's very choppy, it doesn't make sense. The thought groups are not one idea. They're not one thought. So in English sentence structures, you can look very easily at a sentence and decide where does one thought begin and end, short pause, where does the next one begin and end. Sometimes they're very short, sometimes they're a little bit longer, but the pausing is going to help you to be better understood, okay? And then finally, utilize intonation. This is the fun one. So this shows not just what you mean, but the attitude you have about it. Okay, and that's the one that we will spend a little time on. Okay, so for intonation in English, there are varied intonation patterns, and they all convey something different. So if it's a flat mid-level pitch, it shows that you're bored or uninterested. If it's varied, excited and interested. Very high pitch with continuous rise, surprise or disbelief. Low pitch, slow, heavy stress, controlled anger. Exaggerated pitch and length, concern. Okay, you want to hear what those sound like? Okay, so we're going to go through. I'm going to use this one. The weekend is almost here. Okay? The weekend is almost here. Bored, uninterested, right? The weekend is almost here, just flat level, okay? The weekend is almost here. You hear that excitement? Okay. Intonation conveys so much. The weekend is almost here? Surprise, disbelief, oh no. The weekend is almost here. I don't know why they're angry about that, but they are. And then, the weekend is almost here. So maybe we need to finish a project by the weekend. The weekend is almost here. We're not going to be finished in time. Could you hear the difference of those intonations? Okay, let me see. Tell me how I feel about the weekend. The weekend is almost here? Very good, okay. How about the weekend is almost here? Bored, uninterested, okay. All right. The weekend is almost here. Let's move on to what the elevator pitch is, okay. So what do you think when I say elevator pitch? Short, yeah, why? Why is it short? Okay, so maybe you get on the elevator with an important investor, and they only have 3 floors, and then they're going to go. So you have a short amount of time to pitch something, to give them a little sales pitch, right? And then hopefully they are interested. So this is why we call it an elevator pitch. Let me see. So basically a pitch is an overview of an idea, a product, service, project, in this case a person or a solution, and your final presentation is going to be a pitch of sorts, but a little bit longer than an elevator pitch. It's designed to create interest and get a conversation started. So basically, when you hear an elevator pitch, you should be able to think of 2 things. You should recognize what are the skills this person has as a result of what they're telling me, as a result of their experience. What are the skills they have? They may not list the skills, but they tell me about themselves, and I can go, oh, he knows how to write well. He knows how to calculate well, whatever it might be. And then the second thing is, it should raise questions. You should want to know something more about the information. That's why it's very short and must be concise, but you're thinking, oh, I want to know more about that. And if you can get the other person curious and wanting to ask questions, then they will probably say, oh, here's my business card, call me later, let's get together for a meeting. Or can I have your business card, let's meet up, And so even though the elevator pitch was very short, it was that foot in the door, right? And the person is interested enough to want to talk to you some more. Or maybe they have more time. the elevator, they're not on the elevator. They're not going to get off. And they say, oh, let's sit down. Tell me more. Ask about more things, okay? So that's what your elevator pitch is supposed to be. Not your whole life story. Just a few highlights that will be of interest to the listener and make them want to know more. Right? Okay. Let's go on. So it should be concise, not very long, but concise does not mean just short. Concise means that it says a lot in few words. Okay? It should be clear, so you want to probably practice the pieces that you want to say, but don't memorize. Just practice the things that you want to say until you know them. And actually be organized. That will help it be clear too if it's organized well. Okay. Compelling, that just again is interesting, makes them want to know more. Credible, it has to be true. Don't tell any lies in your elevator pitch, right? Okay. And then conversational, not a speech, just a start to a conversation.